Huge win last night, 26th ever, 39 college football release of my career. Michigan State with the 23-point win, minus the 4.5 points over Nebraska. We all cashed the easy ticket. So let's put that one in the books and move forward to this Sunday card. I've got a lot of NFL stats coming your way on how the season is broken down in the first 2 weeks, and I've got a big complimentary play coming your way for the Sunday card as well. What? What? You're not buying this? I don't understand. I mean, at least 25% of you watching this video report actually believe what's his name won the last election. You're all believers of the big lie. I mean, probably at least 25% of you don't want to get vaccinated because you believe microchips. You know, you go believe Kyrie Irving is probably right, you know, Mr. Flat Earth, that microchips are going to be growing out of your body. In fact, hold on. I got my third Pfizer booster shot about 4 weeks ago because I have leukemia. So let me just say, I just want to see. No. I was hoping the magnet would be working by now. Not working, not magnetized yet. I mean, come on. Aren't you buying it? You're pretty damn gullible about some things. Listen, I want you right now, no matter where you played yesterday, whatever online sports book, or if you're in Vegas, I want you to demand to be paid for Michigan State last night. Michigan State covered. Absolutely, Michigan State covered. Because if you believe what's his name won the election, if you believe the vaccine isn't safe, if you believe that, you know, the earth is flat, Michigan State covered. What the hell? The thing that blows my mind is that if we were to run a website, and if I was just to come up with bold-faced lies and say that so-and-so covered and so-and-so didn't, nobody would stand for it. Absolutely no one. Frauds. Scams. You'd be tarred and feathered. But in the real world, so many other wacky things are going on right now. Isn't that funny? I don't know. Ironic? Crazy? Just throwing it out there. Just saying. Obviously, Michigan State didn't get the job done last night. Not the first time I've lost a big play. Not the last time I'm going to lose a big play. But as I said yesterday, the sun definitely rose in the east, and it will set in the west, despite you flat earth theorists out there. Kyrie, just saying. It sucked. Some people are actually claiming, by the way, that Michigan State, because that line closed at 3 and they brought down the half, or 3.5 and brought down the half point, actually got a push. It was a loser. Michigan State was a loser. But if you want to be like Peter Finch in the movie Network and be mad as hell and not going to take it anymore, and you really want to call your sports book and claim that they won, my suggestion is to call the Cyber Ninjas. They did such a great job on the recount in Arizona, and get them on your side. Frankly, it was a loser. That's the bottom line. Listen, week number 3 of the NFL. Let's talk about it before I get to your complimentary plays. There is a little statistical anomaly, a little quirk that I started following about 15 years ago. And it is this. If you can pick the straight-up winner in the NFL, which is easier said than done, and I will admit to that. If you can pick the straight-up winner in the NFL over the first 10 to 12 weeks of the season, it is generally a 90 to 92% play in terms of picking the straight-up winner and finding the team that will cover. They are one and the same over the first 10 to 12 weeks of the season. It is just this little statistical anomaly I found about almost 15 years ago, and it has been like money in the bank. This year, however, it has not necessarily been as strong. Kind of strange. But through the first 2 weeks of the season, and including your Thursday night game, well, we're looking at a record of 26-7, which is a 78% play, which still ain't bad, but not as strong as usual. Because usually you will have, 14-1 weeks, 13-3 weeks. Well, you had a 13-3 week straight up and against the spread in week number 1, but in week number 2 you had 12-4. Then you had Carolina getting the win and cover in week number 3. But generally speaking, I want to give you a broader range. 85 to 92% is where that range will end up being over the first 10 to 12 weeks of the season. And then from that point forward, it just collapses. And again, it's not so easy just picking the straight up winner. but pick the straight up winner and you will find it. Here's the other interesting thing. Generally speaking, week number 1, you will find the favorites are the way to go. That was not the case this year in the opening week, as the dogs went 12-4. Generally speaking, week number 2, the dogs are the way to go, because what happens is the odds makers immediately readjust based on what they see in week number 1, and the dogs bark loud, which they did in week number 2, going 9-7. Now, I think what happened this year in week number 1 is because of the way the preseason changed. I think that had a lot to do with it, because you didn't have the meaningless 4th game. Instead, you had a meaningless 3rd game. But I think the way the preseason has changed overall, it definitely affected the outcomes in game number 1. And consequently, it definitely skewed the numbers. What I will tell you, however, is that everything is cyclical. So even though everybody's been talking about the dogs going 12-4 in week number 1, going 9-7 in week number 2, do not get dog fever today, because that bark may come back to bite you in the ass. Again, everything is cyclical when it comes to betting, and it always has been that way. Another interesting thing I will tell you is that I've always found that in the first, again, 10 to 12 weeks of the season, you will find that dogs, when they are barking, you will find that large tendency is to consider betting some of them on the money line if the take back is profitable. In other words, if it's a worthy take back price-wise. What I'm talking about, in week number 1, you had the dogs going 12-4. 9 of those puppies won outright. In week number 2, the dogs went 9-7. 5 of those dogs won outright. So there are times, if you love a dog, I would never make the money line play the primary play, but if there is a tremendous take back as a secondary smaller wager, you might consider a money line play if you really like that dog to win outright, which goes and plays into the overall thing that I'm talking about, the straight up winners covering the spread. And if you like a dog, a money line play as an auxiliary bonus secondary smaller play can enhance and accelerate your winnings. And I'll keep updating this for you as we go. By the way, if you're interested also to know of the dogs, the 21 dogs I covered in weeks 1 and 2 combined, 13 of them were road dogs. Again, interesting numbers. Let me talk about a couple of complimentary plays here I like tonight. First of all, the Sunday night game, I like San Francisco, minus the 3 points. Again, I'm buying down the half point with that game is anywhere between 3 and 4.5 points. Packers, they are somewhere between the team that got blown out by New Orleans in week number 1, the team that looked awful in the first half against Detroit, and the team that looked like gangbusters in the second half against the Lions. That defense is pathetic. And the offensive line has some big problems. Keep in mind that they're going to be without their left tackle here tonight, a guy who, Jenkins, who had started 32 consecutive regular season games that had only missed 2 snaps in that period. No starting left tackle tonight. Who is going to go up against that left tackle tonight? Who's going to be replacing him? Nick Bosa. And that 49er defensive line has been playing great so far. Everybody's healthy. This is not the 49ers team that was injury-riddled last year. This is the 49ers team that was healthy from 2 years ago and made a Super Bowl run. Garoppolo has not been sacked so far. Garoppolo, 10 for 14, 168 yards, 1 touchdown on 3rd downs. And he's converted 6 third down opportunities through the air, 3 more times running the ball. Garoppolo is 4-0 in Sunday night appearances so far. This team playing home tonight after the road wins against Detroit and Philly. Don't be concerned by the final score of the Detroit game. The Lions got the bulk of their points in garbage time. The 49ers had caught off the dogs. Again, Green Bay has 1 sack so far in 2 games, and their best pass rusher, Zadarius Smith, is again out injured. You look at that Packers offense, they only have 2 passing plays over 20 yards. They only have 1 run over 15 yards. I I'm just not impressed with the Packers. I like San Francisco a lot in this game. Also in the late card, I like Seattle minus the 2 points at Minnesota. We've seen the Vikings have absolutely no defense. We also know that the Vikings are probably not going to have Dalvin Cook, the guy responsible for 131 yards and a touchdown on 22 carries in the 1-point loss at Arizona. This has been a one-sided series with Seattle winning 7 in a row. And you've got a Seattle team that last week at home blew a 14-point fourth quarter lead in a subsequent overtime loss to Tennessee. Last week they couldn't stop Derrick Henry, not an embarrassing thing. A lot of teams can't stop Derrick Henry as he ran for 182 yards. But not having Dalvin Cook, Kirk Cousins, had a good game last week, a very good game against Arizona. But Cousins, he's in 1 week, out another. So I like Seattle to bounce back here. And I think it's a very important situation for Seattle to pick up a win when you consider the Seahawks' next 3 games. Next week at San Francisco, the following week at home against the Rams, the next week at Seattle, and even the following week, they're home against New Orleans. I mean, this is a murderer's row schedule for Seattle, so the Seahawks better win in this spot. And by the way, Russell Wilson is 34-9 straight up in his career following a loss. That is the best record by any quarterback in such situations since the NFL-AFL merger back in 1970. So there's a little tidbit for you. So those are your 2 complementary plays, the 49ers and the Seahawks. I like the 49ers number 1, Seahawks number 2. Of course, yesterday I went 2-1 with the complementary plays, cashing with my best bet in Arkansas, losing with Iowa, and cashing in with Army. So there you go. And that's it for Sunday. And good luck, everybody.